from Jar and Fern. I'm going to talk to you now about how to look after your succulent arrangement. So you've popped together a nice looking succulent arrangement, and obviously you want to keep it healthy. So really, something that's very important with succulents, something we hear quite a lot when people tell us that they're plant murderers. It's usually because they've had a succulent which they're told is nice and easy to look after, but they managed to kill it. 9 times out of 10 this happens because of too much watering. So a succulent is built to last in drought conditions, which means it doesn't need very much water. Typically speaking, the root systems of succulents are pretty small, so too much water is going to overwhelm them, particularly if they end up in a cold spot. So the best way to look after your succulents is to just give them a little bit of water as and when. So once you've made your arrangement, it's best to give each succulent just 1 teaspoon of water. So I just go around, say this arrangement here, just put 1 little spoonful just on the side of each succulent, and this is just going to help the roots bed into their new compost. After this, I'm going to avoid any sort of routine when I water my succulents because, as I say, too much water is going to be detrimental for them. They're of course drought tolerant plants, but there are signs that you'll know that they need a water. Typically with a succulent, we can tell that they need a water by looking at the leaves. When the leaves start to look a bit shriveled, when they lose that firmness, you can touch them as well. When they feel less plump, that means they're starting to dehydrate. So in that instance, all I do is give the particular succulent in question just a little spoonful of water. In the winter, you may not need to water your succulents very much at all. And in the summer, of course, it'll be warmer, so that water is going to dissipate faster. So you will need to perhaps water them a little bit more frequently in the summertime. So really, it's just about observing when the plants themselves need a water, making sure you don't overwater them, and just looking for those little wrinkly leaves, things that feel a bit less plump than usual. That's just an indication that they're dehydrated. Light for succulents, we're trying to replicate the warm, sunny environment that they live in. Typically at Jar and Fern, we like succulents that come from places like Mexico, South Africa, lots and lots of sun in those sorts of environments, those dry environments. So obviously a nice exposed glass thing like this, we'd never put one inside of a sealed terrarium, that'd be too much moisture, but we're nice and open so it can get lots of air, they like lots of air, and lots of light as well. So if you have a south facing window, that's ideal for your succulents, okay? So give them as much sun as you can give them. That will help them look nice and bright. It'll keep the vivacity of the colours. Typically if a succulent doesn't get too much light, it will start to look a bit leggy. It might start to look a bit pale. That's usually an indication that the succulent hasn't got quite enough light, okay? You can also get yourself like a succulent feed in the summer. So if you want to give it like a little bit of a top up to help it grow. Typically speaking, succulents grow very slowly. So the ones that you have in your arrangement, you're not going to need to repot them, if at all, for a very long time. They've got a good amount of root space in there compared to the pot they would have been in when you've displaced them and put them inside of this arrangement. So they should be happy for a long time. As I say, they will grow pretty slowly, okay? So the most important thing really is just make sure you don't overwater your succulents. If you do notice any of those sort of signs that they're starting to dehydrate, so wrinkled leaves, less firm, then that just means just give it a little teaspoon of water. And if it still looks like that, perhaps in the summertime, after you've watered it, just give it another little teaspoon. Again, it's really important we don't overwater them. So just a little bit as and when it needs it, and avoid any sort of routine. Thank you.